Pharmaceutical industry is just the same as McDonald's. Big conglomerates there to make money. So I would love to impact 1 million men before I die. I've seen the negative impacts on men. Men don't speak.
They were well trained to hold things in.
Yes, exactly that. And we are creating inflamed human beings with inflamed brain, inflamed gut, inflamed lungs, inflamed heart. You know, my dad always told me, and I never forget this, he says the person who has not read a book after he or she has finished formal education is not educated. I've learned that you have to be good at everything in business. You don't have to be the specialist in marketing or advertising or lead generation, but you gotta know enough. You gotta be a 6 and 7 in everything.
How do you deal with the amount of negativity that can come for someone who's been in the spotlight on TV and now is openly criticized?
That's a good question.
Welcome back to the Mindful Creator Podcast, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you're loving the episodes and if you're loving the guests, then please make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Also, make sure you comment below with your favorite part of the episode or the part that impacted you the most from the conversation, because I absolutely love hearing how the conversations are making a difference for you. Your interaction and engagement is what helps me make this podcast that much bigger and better, with even more amazing guests and even more powerful conversations. None of this would be possible without you. So again, I'm hugely grateful. Thank you so much, and let's get into the show. Today is a very special episode, which is completely impromptu, as I happen to be in the studio recording before this, and I was greeted at the door by Dr. Asif Munaf from The Apprentice. Asif, thank you so much for saying yes to joining me on the show.
Dipesh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. And, love the journey, love the content, and the fact that you thought I was worthy of your podcast, I'm humbled.
Absolutely.
Because I'm yet to prove myself to Lord Sugar, so
yeah,
still in the process.
Still in the process, yeah. Definitely. I'm following it every Thursday
Thank
as
you.
well. We'll definitely get into stuff around The Apprentice. Before we jump in, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself? What do you think people need to know about you, and how would you introduce yourself to someone?
Great. So I used to introduce myself as a doctor, but I think that's a bit rich now because I've not worked for a long time as a doctor. So I'm probably an ex-doctor, you could say. Ex-doctor, now working as a life coach, mindset coach, working as an entrepreneur in supplement business. I came on Dragon's Den before this with supplements. I'm now on The Apprentice with supplements. I aim to get people off tablets, off therapy, into more holistic living through nutrition, through supplementation, through sleep, through mindfulness.
Interesting.
So very much a holistic doctor.
Okay. That is a drastic change to someone who's practiced in medicine.
Yes.
So let's start this conversation off with where the change in your perspective came from to go, I don't agree with what traditional medicine is saying to help healing people, and we have to go down the more holistic route.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a good question. So I would say my lens widened during medical school. So medical school, you still see patients, but not in the capacity of a doctor. You're still a student. So you see patients from kind of a arm's length. But I still wasn't satisfied. I saw a lot of amputations, guys with diabetes, guys with bad chests having lung transplants, but they were still smoking. So I decided to do a public health master's degree between my 4th and 5th year.
Okay.
And that, Dipesh, was really eye-opening for me, because public health is very different to medicine. Medicine, you treat one person at a time. Public health, you treat million people at a time. It's essentially looking at the bigger picture. So I did a 1-year master's degree. In fact, I entered my 5th year of medical school, still doing my master's. So I was actually doing the master's in the evening and doing my 5th year finals in the day. It was
Nice.
a crazy year of my life, because the master's is long. It's more than a year. And then I went back into medical school. So in the master's, what I learned is there's 2 ways to treat things. There's downstream and upstream. As doctors, we are taught to treat downstream. So I'll explain the analogy in a second.
Yeah.
So there's a river, or a stream rather, and at the bottom of the river, bottom of the stream, there's dead fish, and there's a man at the bottom of the stream. He keeps taking out the fish, cleaning them, and then putting them back because they're dirty. They've got oil on their pollution, and they keep dying. So he's taking them out, cleaning them. Some of them survive, most of them die. He keeps doing it. It gets very laborious.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying instead of me trying to save at the bottom, essentially what he's doing is firefighting at the bottom. He goes upstream, and there's a big leak in the sewage pipes, and he blocks that leak. Now the water's clean.
Mm-hmm.
No fish are dying. So in medicine, we do the downstream, what he was doing, essentially cleaning up people, putting them back in the dirty water. Upstream is where public health comes in. Nutrition, sleep, well-being, essentially being at whole with one.
Yep.
And public health, I was only 20 or 21 at the time. I was between my 4th and 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
So still very young, very, very much in my formative years. Hadn't completed my medical degree at the time, but I knew when I did the masters, when I'm going to come back into medicine, I'm going to be a holistic doctor.
That is super interesting, and we are going to get along very well because I have the exact same philosophy. Because from my understanding and from what I've seen, medicine treats the symptom,
Yes,
but not the cause.
absolutely. Medicine's very prescriptive. Hence, we give prescriptions out, right?
Yep.
Prescriptions is very prescriptive. We treat the sickness, not the illness. There's a difference there. We treat the sickness. Well, you mentioned there, symptoms. Treat the symptoms. There's an illness, though, underlying inflammation going on. And we know it, from the South Asian culture.
Yep.
If you look at Brahmic, Ayurvedic medicine,
Yep.
haldi, turmeric, all these things, we knew it.
Yep.
Because they're anti-inflammatory.
Yep.
Capsaicin, in the peppers, all these kind of things, honey and cumin and, I don't know the Hindi words, but my mum uses them. She's got a little medicinal cupboard. I don't know what they are, but they always work.
You got the little silver tin in the cupboard. Yeah. I know.
Exactly.
We grew up on it.
And
So.
Essentially, Divesh, these are anti-inflammatory. So when we're in a state of inflammation, and we're starting to understand it now in the West, in conventional medicine, but they've known it in Arabic, Chinese, Ayurvedic, South American medicine, by the way. If you go to Andes, Peru, you go to Ecuador, the shamans,
The traditional cultures.
Yeah, they know inflammation is the cause of most of our illnesses. And actually, there's a book came out last year, Dr. Chris Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a consultant psychiatrist I believe in Stanford in America. And he wrote a book. You can Google this, bestseller. It's called Brain Energy.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Western medicine has understood that conditions like depression, ADHD, autism even, anxiety are from an inflamed brain.
Wow.
It's called Brain Energy. And we knew about this 2,000 years ago.
Okay, so that book's getting added to my weird list.
Dr. Chris Palmer, Brain Energy.
Okay.
And it talks about modern devices, mobile phones, lighting, radiation, modern foods, conveniences, processed foods, additives, preservatives, coloring, all these things are inflammatory. And we are creating inflamed human beings with inflamed brain, inflamed gut, inflamed lungs, inflamed heart, all these itises and rheumatoid and, chronic lung conditions, liver problems, brain conditions. So you're looking at ADHD, depression, anxiety, all these kind of things. Finally, Western medicine is starting to follow the traditional path.
And you're seeing that that's actually coming from inflammation as the core reason that we're experiencing any of these symptoms.
Yes, absolutely. So inflammation at the core is the cause of much illnesses. So, the Greeks knew this, right? The Greeks knew even the word itis means hot, like flame, itis. So anything itis is inflamed. Greeks knew about it. There's something being hot and inflamed. And they talk about it in Ayurvedic medicine, hot and cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Greeks knew about this, Romans knew about this, the Chinese knew about this. It's only in the West we dampen down inflammation with pharmacy because it's $1 trillion industry. So they make a lot of money from it. But they're not treating, like you said, the root cause. They're treating the symptoms. Because a patient cured is a customer lost. And in India, and in Peru, and in China, you pay a hakim, a shaman, these people, you pay them a monthly retainer fee. The moment you get ill, you stop paying them. So there's an incentive for him or her to keep you well. In the West, there's an incentive for you to get ill. Absolutely opposite.
How do you even begin to try and disrupt an industry that is multiple billions to trillions when the structure is designed to keep someone ill?
Yeah.
How do you even begin to try and change that system?
I think what you're doing, so podcasting, books, these kind of things, workshops, seminars, trying to get people to see the bigger picture of life. People talk about escape the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
There's a financial matrix.
Yeah.
There's that exists. But what about the health matrix, right? The big. I know there's Netflix documentaries now about processed meat, etc. But big pharma has a big grip over us. There's no doubt about it. Because the thing where people understand advertisers and fast food joints, they understand that these guys are capitalists and it's a very much a consumer economy.
Mm-hmm.
But people struggle to grapple with the idea that pharmaceutical industry is also just the same as McDonald's and Netflix. These are big conglomerates there to make money. But people think, it's pharmaceutical, it's a big pharma, it's GSK, it's AstraZeneca. They're there to, inherently help us. No, and profit comes before anything else. Profit is always there. The bottom line is more important than curing.
Okay. So let's go into a little bit of business. Listen, medicine is, from what I've heard, already a extremely stressful and difficult process to go through to become qualified. Where did you even find the passion to go and the energy to go and fulfill the extra year that you did to focus your energy and intention to try and cure people right from the cause of their illness rather than the symptom?
A good question. So public health has always been a passion. I spent 1 year in Pakistan when I was like 9 or 10. Saw polio. I believe Pakistan's the only country in the world, maybe one of 2 or 3 countries in the world that still has active cases of polio because of the vaccination programs not being rolled out completely. So I saw children with polio, deformed joints, they couldn't walk. So I always had interest in public health.
Okay.
So it was only a matter of time before I did it, either as a degree or as a job. So when the offer came, I accepted it gladly. Although it was 1 year extra, for me, it was probably one of the most exhilarating, stimulating years of my life because I learned about global policy. I learned about the effect of poverty on health outcomes. If you read about the Gini coefficient, all these kind of things, how health inequality is directly related to a country's wealth. So some of the most prosperous countries economically, like Finland, Japan, etc., they also have the highest life expectancy as well.
Interesting.
And they have the least discrepancy between maternal and paternal health, between male and females as well.
Wow.
And they have the least variation in health outcomes. But if you look at the poorest countries like Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, they also have the worst health outcomes. So health is intrinsically linked to wealth, both on a personal level and on a macro level as well. And the public health master's degree really gave me that perspective on life.
Okay. The purpose of this podcast is to help you make your dreams a reality in every area of life. And that includes traveling and exploring some of the world's most beautiful destinations, like the Maldives. Myself and my wife took a trip to the Maldives last year, and with the huge number of islands to choose from and the cost differences between all of them, it all became a little bit overwhelming. That's where Simply Maldives, a dedicated travel agency for all the islands, stepped in, gave us the best advice, helped us plan our perfect trip, and got us a fantastic deal. That's why I'm proud and excited to say that I'm now partnered with Simply Maldives. Their expert knowledge can help you plan the perfect dream holiday. Whether you're traveling solo, traveling as a couple, traveling with your family and kids, or you have specific dietary requirements, they have something for you. So if you're interested in jetting off to the Maldives for your next dream holiday, then reach out to Simply Maldives through the link below, and I can guarantee you, you'll be well looked after. So you have a supplements brand and you're here to help people holistically heal.
Yes.
Talk to me about the Dragon's Den pitch. What was the reason for going to Dragon's Den? And what was your intention to get them to help you do?
Right. Dragons, we talked about fortuitous timing. There's no such thing as fortune. You make your own fortune and things align, stars align, the universe wants you to progress. So it was the first season that Tej came on, and I probably wouldn't have gone on Dragon's Den if Tej didn't come on.
Tej Lavani,
yes,
from Vitabiotics.
Get him on the podcast as well.
Will do.
Great speaker, good, lovely guy. His wife was a friend of one of my doctor colleagues.
Okay.
Small world. So
tiny world.
It's a tiny world. I was working in Derby Hospital.
Okay.
And there's a doctor. She was friends with his wife. And he's a young lad. He's in the 30s, 40s. first Asian, like, after James Caan, kind of first Asian on there. So a great time, in the health industry. And a lot of the dragons have multiple portfolios. James Caan, Tuka, Peter Jones, they have 20, 30 kind of companies that they've invested in, made a fortune, lost it, made a fortune. Tage had a very simple story. Vitibiotics only.
Yeah.
Health and wellness, supplements. And that was his first. So if you check, I think it was series 13 or 14 I was on. It was Tage's first series. He was brand new to the Dragon. It was brand new to the Den. So great timing. I wouldn't have gone on if it wasn't for him. I think I don't know who he replaced.
I think he replaced
Nick.
The Moonpig.
Yes. Nick. I don't know.
I can't remember his surname, but yeah.
Yeah. The clean shave.
I remember
guy.
Moonpig.
Yeah. I know. But yeah, he replaced him exactly. And it's weird how it worked, because that was, a big leap for us. If you look at the feedback from the Dragons, they said it's way too early. Way too early. We were trading for like 6 months. And we went on Dragons Den, where if you look at a lot of companies, they trade for 2 or 3 years. They try penetrating Planet Organic, Whole Foods, etc., wholesalers. We didn't do any of that. We went from the Christmas markets to the Dragons Den, because Tage was on there. So it's great timing in that sense. Yeah. And it catapulted my learning. Because at the same time I was working full time as a doctor. Now
so
I'm
you're
not
doing both?
Yeah, I was doing both. Yeah, I was working full time, flat out. This was just before COVID. Working flat out, 12-hour shifts, coming home, then doing the smoothies in the evenings. When I had a weekend off, I was doing the smoothies, selling them on the streets, Christmas markets, stalls, farmers markets, etc. Trying to put them in coffee shops in Sheffield, and then Dragons Den came along after that as well. So very intense. But I believe in, Japanese concept of Kaizen, which is, lean startup, learning on the job, compressing everything into short sprints. Then 3 to 6 months, I learned so much. I learned probably, what I would have learned in a 2-year MBA or 10 years in business. I learned in 3 to 6 months, crash course.
Wow. Me and you have a lot of similar philosophies, especially around Kaizen.
I love Kaizen.
Minuscule improvements at every
incremental
single
iterations.
Point.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah. Okay. That was just before COVID.
Yes.
Then COVID happened.
Yeah.
You're a doctor. How did that impact your business? Because I'm assuming that you were frontline for COVID.
Yes. Massively impacted my business, massively. Because we were doing the smoothies just before that. And then we started going to intravenous supplements, so IVs, IV drips, etc. Couldn't do it anymore. Because, you couldn't home visit people, the clinics were closed. So it massively impacted the business. So I'm like, Dragons told me about the short shelf life. Then I made it into intravenous supplements. Couldn't do it because of COVID. Now we need to launch something which is COVID proof and has a 1-year shelf life. And then the third iteration, again, Kaizen, third iteration was collagen supplements, drinks, which is 1-year shelf life. Jeez. And then the Apprentice, the third business.
Okay. So let's talk about the Apprentice. Okay. Because from your experience, from your background and what you're wanting to achieve, I would assume it's relatively not easy, but you're relatively open to being able to find investment externally.
Yes.
Why the Apprentice?
Apprentice, like if you look at the last week's fired candidate, Paul Bowen, he actually gave a very good interview to his local newspaper. He said, I could get £250,000 loan with no equity being given away, which is actually a better deal than what Lord Sugar is offering you in terms of monetary value.
Yep.
But what Lord Sugar offers you is the mentorship, 50 years of experience, and that's worth more than £250,000. I know, even my business, like £250,000 for 50%, it's actually undervaluing the business, because I know it's at least 1 or 2 million. So Lord Sugar taking 50% for £250,000, he's got the good deal. He's got the great ROI. In fact, most of our businesses are at least worth $1 million. So the fact that Lord Sugar's taking 50%, or he's willing to take 50% for £250,000, it's actually peanuts for him, firstly. Secondly, we're the ones that are being undersold, because we're giving a massive equity share, 50% of it, over to him for only £250,000. And some businesses spend £250,000 in a week, overheads and marketing, etc. Yep. So he's getting the good deal. Fiscally, financially, he's getting the better deal. But it's not that you go for. It's the exposure, firstly, primetime TV, that's one thing. But secondly is his mentorship. And I don't know who it was, one of the ex-apprentice candidates a few years ago. he said he would be very happy every time he got called back into the boardroom because he spent more time with Lord Sugar.
Wow.
And imagine spending 10, 12 weeks and just winning and going back to the house, not spending any time with him at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So this is valuable, right? Spending time with him in the boardroom. And it's been great. Like last week was tense. You saw me in the boardroom. Tense. But honestly, Dipesh, he is a fountain of knowledge. How can you meet him? Like, you can't meet him at a coffee shop. Like, he's always in Florida. How you ever gonna spend time with him?
What is crazy is my dad's a pharmacist,
Uh-huh.
and we had a pharmacy back in Perivale in in West London,
Uh-huh.
and he used to serve Lord Sugar his prescriptions
No way.
way back when, which is crazy. I never got to meet him, and this was way before the Apprentice.
This is a full circle moment meeting me now.
Yeah,
Apprentice candidate.
Yeah, this is crazy. So that is interesting, and that's a hell of a perspective to have on what you can get out of even a boardroom scenario, because obviously we see on TV a snippet of what I'm assuming goes on in the background.
Yes.
So what kind of wisdom and knowledge have you taken from the time that you've spent in Lord Sugar's presence, or with Karen, or with Tim?
Right. So speaking about Lord Sugar, because Tim and Karen are, although they are there, they're very much there in an objective, observational capacity. They just take notes. They don't really give you much feedback. Lord Sugar gives you feedback in a very straight way, in a very East London Cockney way, you know?
Yeah, there's no fluff.
There's no, exactly, straight. So I've learned that you have to be good at everything in business. Like, you don't have to be the specialist in marketing or advertising or lead generation or customer acquisition, but you got to know enough. You got to be a 6 and 7 in everything. And that's what he was, right?
Yeah.
He was good at everything. He developed as well. He marketed, he sold, negotiated, etc. He was a CTO, CFO, CEO, CIO.
Yes.
You know, essentially he did everything. And that's what Apprentice teaches you. 12 weeks, every task is designed to push you in different aspects. Leadership, negotiation, sales and marketing, advertising, delegation, people skills, market selling, bulk buying, discount buying, all these kind of things.
Okay, so I have to ask you, because you've been in the Dragon's Den and you've had a business idea for a while.
Yeah.
Does everyone come onto that show there for genuine business reasons, or is there a lot of it just for like the TV exposure and just for the virality that primetime TV could give someone?
I think it might have been a few years ago, but I think now certainly it's purely business. And I was saying this to someone as well earlier. Lord Sugar now in the last 2 or 3 years is sending, because last week was the auditions, and someone messaged me saying, look, I got grilled by a Lord Sugar's business advisor. Even when I auditioned last year as well, Lord Sugar's business advisors were in the audition, like old men in suits with the BBC producers, weeding out any wannabe influencers. So I think now it's more stringent.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so what was that process like for you to audition last year, and what did you have to go through?
So you apply initially, paper form. Then if you get through, I think 80,000 people apply for that. That gets shortened to about 2,000 people, I'm not sure. 80,000 to like 2,000. And then 2,000 people get a longer form. And then that gets read by the producers and the business aides, I think. Then that goes to a few hundred. And the few hundred get invited into auditions. 200 or 300 maybe.
Okay.
And then them auditions are held over 2 weeks, and that's the first auditions round. Then from 200-300 you go to 80, and 80 people go to the second round interviews, which is a group tasks. So the first interview has multiple stages. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. You know, multiple rounds, multiple stages within the round as well. So first round is, you got to say why you want to be Lord Sugar's business partner. You got to have your business plan scrutinized with Lord Sugar's business aid and the BBC producer at the same time. So they're checking if you're business savvy and TV worthy. And then you do the pitch, you do your audition, essentially what you see. Auditions, you do them there, see if your camera's, quickly, if you can speak on camera without any warning. And then I was quite used to that because I've had a podcast for a couple of years myself. So I was okay.
So you've been prepped.
Yeah, I've been prepped. Yeah, a lot of people just freeze.
And going on Dragon's Den, I'm assuming, has some 100%. Benefit to that as well.
Absolutely. And then you get invited into the second round. They check how you are with teams and delegation. They also check you psychologically. They ask you some random questions like, if you're on a desert island, who would you save? I remember a question was really weird. Like there's a prostitute who's got a 3-year-old son, but there's also a Catholic nun. There's also a doctor. There's like 8 people, but you only can say 4 of them. Give you reasons why you would say 4 of these. You got to write like a manifesto.
Oh my God.
Seriously, it's crazy. And then you got to build like a IKEA furniture. They check your problem solving skills, working under pressure. Because the task in the Apprentice don't seem relevant, like cooking cheesecakes.
Yeah.
But they check your pressure. They check how you work under pressure, and how you work under uncertainty. That's the big thing. Working under uncertainty.
How do you feel when you've been involved in a task like that? You're with a team, obviously, people that you don't really know that well. You're spending a little bit of time with, especially early on in the process. The task fails, as in your team loses, but you did everything either that you were asked to do or you did your absolute best. What is that feeling like when the team kind of falls apart or there's a couple of individuals? How do you deal with that?
Good question. You obviously are disappointed, because if I flip that on its head, you could be an underperforming candidate but still get to the final 5 because your team keeps winning.
True.
And that's happened before, by the way.
True.
I think one of the years the boys got very far because they won like 8 in a row.
Yeah.
The last couple of seasons, girls have just won like 6, 7 in a row.
Yeah.
It's happening now as well.
Yes, it is.
So
they are absolutely crushing it.
You can just, you can just be under the radar as in this series as a girl and get to the final 5 just that way. So that's the flip side of it. But on the other side, in our case, the boys, you are in the firing line because you keep losing. So even small mistakes or lack of contribution can be blown out of proportion. So how do you deal with it? Essentially, like you saw last week, you have to put your case forward. Yeah. You've got to fight on the front foot. You can't be defensive. Attack is the best form of defense. And I'm a big believer in that. Attack is the best form of defense. Be assertive without being aggressive.
How do you separate being assertive and leaving the aggression behind?
It's all in the facial expressions. So, keep a nonplussed face, keep a neutral face, and, don't insult. Don't, definitely pick up points, elaborate on them, give crystal clear, examples, be clear in your communication, but do not insult, do not get personal, don't add any ad hominems, etc. when you are critiquing a fellow candidate's performance, because at the end of the day, that's someone's husband and wife, etc. You can't insult them personally in the boardroom. You can talk about their performance, and you can obviously try to get them fired, but you don't insult personally, because that doesn't reflect well on you. So being assertive is very important. Okay. But also with assertion comes great responsibility, because you've got to have a point to make. You can't waffle and be assertive. So you've got to be clear, constructive, have a valid point to make, and then be assertive. Assertiveness comes afterwards. First point is being a credible authority, actually being observant, having your eyes wide open, seeing what the other team have done, picking up on their weaknesses, and then being assertive by relaying your point. So you've got to be crystal clear.
Okay, love that. What would you say is your purpose in this life?
To impact millions. I was going to say millions of people, but I wouldn't impact men, because I'm a man myself. I'm one of 5 boys.
Oh, wow.
I'm the eldest of 5 brothers. I've got 22 male cousins. It's a big family,
Okay.
So impact men. And most of my coaching, my podcast, are all about men. Men who've gone through divorce, men who go through mental health, men who go through breakups, men who go through andropause. Like even the collagen supplement is andropause. So a lot of people have heard of menopause, but a lot of people haven't heard of andropause. Andropause is the male version.
And how does that impact men?
Men slow down, just like women slow down in their 40s. Men slow down as well. Our testosterone levels drop. Get cognitive clouding. We get low libido. 3 things, right? Happy, horny, hungry. All of them 3 get less. That's what happens. So we're less happy, so we're more depressed. Greater risk of self-deletion. So men over 40, that's my target demographic. When it comes to supplements, behavioral changes, mindset, mindfulness, well-being. So I would love to impact 1 million men before I die.
I love that. Obviously, there's been stuff in the news which has been in a negative light, and I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty of what's being said. What I do want to ask you is, how do you deal with the amount of negativity that can come for someone who's been in the spotlight on TV and now is openly criticized? Like, how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. Don't Google yourself is what literally the best advice I ever got.
Okay.
And that was advice from a candidate who didn't get on. She was on the reserve list, I think, or I've met her in the auditions.
Yep.
Great girl. And she said, she messaged me recently saying, I'm glad to see you get on. I know you'd get on. And don't Google yourself. And that's actually, I've not done it since then. So yeah, because I'll Google myself when it's all over.
Okay.
And then I can decompress and, process some of it. But while I'm in the process, I want to have all the positive energy.
Fair enough.
Business opportunities, networking, like today, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, work on the business. Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. 8 million people watch The Apprentice. There's always going to be tabloids. If you of a particular ethnic persuasion, there's always going to be tabloids. And I run a men's health podcast. I've been doing it for years now.
So there's always going to be criticism.
Yeah, there's always going to be criticism. 99% of my stuff is about men. 1% is maybe about divorce, family courts, feminism, etc., which affects the men I speak to. Like I mentioned earlier, the downstream effects.
Yeah.
You cannot talk about patients without talking about the society people come from.
True.
The macro lens. So a lot of my men are going through divorce, they're going through breakup, they're going through child custody battles. I look at the macro perspective. What's happening here? A big part of it is these are second, third generation, Indian men, Punjabi, Pakistani men who have been married in the West, different values to what they were brought up with. And I say, look, maybe perhaps marrying someone who's traditional will suit you better.
Interesting.
So, and that gets picked up and says Dr. Asif is promoting marriage away from the UK and all that stuff.
Yeah. Which is why you got to take everything you read with a pinch of salt,
absolutely,
right? Yeah. And I love that. Don't Google yourself.
Don't Google. Even you, don't Google yourself.
I don't plan to from now on. Okay. So I've done a little deep dive into your socials. And what I've started doing is picking out 3 things that really stand out to me, which I'll reflect back to you. I'm just curious about your opinion.
Cool.
Okay. So the first one was actually a video that you had about something called the mindfulness effect. And this happens to be the podcast called The Mindful Creator. What is the mindfulness effect and why is it important?
Good question. Mindfulness, I can't remember what I said there because these are short snippets from my big long podcasts. But mindfulness is essentially living life as God, Bhagwan, wherever you want to, Waheguru, we've got different names.
Yep.
However, he intended you to live life, which is live in the present. Be grounded, be mindful. I'm speaking to you, my phone's off, I'm literally speaking to you.
Yep.
I'm mindful. This is mindfulness. When you eat, be mindful. When you pray, be mindful. When you drive, be mindful, otherwise something will happen. Be mindful. Mindfulness means being in the present.
Yeah.
And I love the word present, by the way, because present also means gift.
Yes.
And this is God's gift to us, is the present. So be present when you're doing it. Don't be distracted. And this is very hard in today's attention economy. We've always got something called attention residue. So, if you're doing something, you're never going to be 100%. You're going to be 20% somewhere else. Maybe yesterday's football or today's news, 80% on the person, but you should be 100% on the person.
I love that. I completely agree. Fully focused.
Yes.
What's your number one strategy to get fully present?
Phone's off. I always have my phone off. Do not check messages before I speak to someone. Because, again, attention residue, right? Attention residue. I'm a big believer in that. And this is something I learned from medicine. If I'm speaking to a pharmacist and then a nurse calls me saying, doctor, this patient's unwell, I've still got attention residue on the pharmacist and then the patient and then the patient's relatives. And this is how mistakes happen. Yeah. Mistakes happen when you've got attention residue. It's a very good term, by the way.
I love this.
It's a really good term, yeah. So I believe, fully focused. And what does focus mean? Follow one course until successful.
I love that.
So be eagle-eyed.
Okay. Don't just be one thing. Add multiple strings to your bow. Why?
Polymath. Again, life is short. If you're living 70, 80 years, imagine what a wonderful, heroic life you're going to live if you're a doctor, an author, a podcast host, an entrepreneur, a coach, a mindfulness guru, a father, a husband. So many strings, right? You can't even fit them on your tombstone.
Yeah.
And that's my aim. Not just be Asif, ex-NHS doctor. Because you want a story to tell, right?
Absolutely.
And you want to impact people. And I want to impact people on many, many levels. Through what I say, through what I do with my hands as a doctor, through what I sell, my supplements, through what I talk about. So I want to impact millions, particularly men. Because, the reason why I say men, Dipesh, is I've seen the negative impacts on men. Men don't speak, but they speak to me. And I know the problems.
I think we're well trained to hold things in.
Yes, exactly that.
And it's big conditioning for a very long time, right? And I love what you shared there, because I used to be called a jack of all trades. And the saying goes, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, which a lot of people don't realize that that's actually one half of the saying. And the full saying is, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, but that's often better than being a master of one.
Yes.
And that is why that one stood out to me so much, because it's something that I'm a big believer in.
And like I mentioned to you earlier, the word andropause.
Yep.
Can I ask you a question? Have you heard that word, andropause?
I've not heard of it till today until you explained what that was.
Okay. Because it's it shows our society, like men often neglected, right? What about the word polymath? Have you heard of that before?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, polymath again. You heard of it. A lot of people haven't heard of it. Polymath was very common 200 years ago. People did many things.
Yeah.
They weren't just one thing. And modern example is someone like Will Smith, writer, actor, comedian, singer, producer.
That's a good point.
Great. Why can't we be that?
That's a great question. Okay. You have to follow the footsteps and blueprint of mentors.
Yes.
How do you know the blueprint and the footsteps to follow that are going to lead you to the path that you want to be on?
Finding a mentor. You have to find the right person and reverse engineer what they've done.
And how do you know it's the right person?
Get a good feeling.
And how do you define a gut feeling?
Things just click. I think things align. You see the twinkle in their eye. They see you as a younger version of themselves. And you can shortcut and save a lot of heartbreak and pain and misery and regret by doing what they've done and avoiding their pitfalls. And that's the blueprint, right? Blueprint is essentially how to do things in a positive way and avoid the negatives.
Yeah, avoid the pitfalls.
Yes.
I love that. Okay. As this conversation has been amazing, and I've got my final questions for you. Okay. What's the one skill that you think is essential for everyone to succeed in this world?
Curiosity. So it's not a skill, it's more of a mindset, but having a growth mindset. Because when you're curious and your insatiable hunger for learning, you will learn about AI. I could tell you, Dipesh, learn about AI, but 5 years, there could be something else. It could be AI 2.0. There could be Esperanto, some random language that comes out. We all got to learn. But so having a growth mindset, grounded in curiosity, will make sure whatever comes out, whatever drone technology, whatever AI technology, ChatGPT 5.0, you will learn it. You learn it. So this is going away from being prescriptive and being more, having a more macro lens and saying just generally have an insatiable appetite for for life. And what does philosophy mean, right? Philo means love. Sophy, thought. Be a philosopher. Love life, love thinking, love learning. Be a philosopher. But we often think philosophers with big white beards, right?
Yeah.
Old men in caves somewhere.
Yep.
But you can be a philosopher.
You see the wall paintings?
Yeah, exactly. But be a philosopher. Philo means love, right? So love life, love learning. That's the one skill we must all have. Learn about AI. Learn about, money. I know you talk about money in your podcast. Important. How is money made? What is money?
Yep.
What assets? What are liabilities? What is fiscal reserve? What is Federal Reserve? What is quantitative easing in a QE? What is all these kind of things? Learn about these. So you won't learn at university. Learn yourself. Read books, self-help, ebooks, online courses. But you can't say you got to read this, but just have the mindset of reading everything you get your hands on.
Yeah, I love that. And you want to always be learning.
Yes,
always. And especially now in an age where information is so freely available with YouTube, podcasts like this, your podcast, there's opportunities to actually learn everywhere with no excuse. So then it's actually down to the person's mindset on whether they choose to learn and absorb what's there or not.
Yeah. My dad always taught me, and I never forget this. He told me when I was quite young, actually. He says the person who has not read a book after he or she has finished formal education is not educated.
Oh,
And that is so powerful.
I've never heard that before.
It's a great quote. Who's
Excellent.
never read a book after they after their formal education, they're not educated.
I love that. I'm going to stick by that one.
Yeah, it's a great one. Read. Readers are leaders.
So, on books, which is synchronistically my next question anyway, what book or movie has had a significant impact on your life?
Okay. Book, I would say On the Shortness of Life and Meditations.
Mm-hmm.
On the Shortness of Life by Seneca, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, both were Stoics.
Yep. Big fan of both.
Yeah, exactly. Deep books.
Very deep.
Yeah, great books. So they both show you that, life is serious. It's a short journey, but it's a serious journey. Do not waste it, because you'll be forgotten by the winds of time. Literally in 50 years' time, we won't be here probably. For 100 years, we definitely won't be here.
Yep.
Okay? But our words can reverberate throughout time if they're impactful. Just like his are. Seneca's, Marcus Aurelius, their words are reverberating through time. Because they had that legacy mindset, right? They did something bigger than them. So that's one thing. Book-wise, I was going to say Pursuit of Happiness, but mentioned Will Smith earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I love that film. It's very tear-jerking. I cry a lot in that film.
Yeah.
But it also shows tenacity.
Definitely.
Tenacity. Like never giving up.
Yeah, the pursuit of just keeping on showing up.
Keep on showing up, exactly.
That's
Consistency. Because the people who are successful, by the way, are just those who tried a bit longer.
Yeah, true. They showed up one more time. They showed
Yeah,
up
exactly.
One more day, one more week.
One more day. And it's that picture of the diamond. Have you seen it? It's a nice picture of the two guys.
The one chipping away at the diamond.
chipping
Yes,
away.
yeah.
So close to the breakthrough.
Yep. One walks away.
One walks away. It's a Japanese bamboo tree or Chinese bamboo tree that it takes 5 years underground.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 5 years and one day, just shoots up.
It's like 18 feet in a couple of days.
Yes.
After 5 years of nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just keep. It's like the diamond digger.
Yeah. Same
Just
thing.
Turning around. Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. Final question for you. If you could go back in time to your younger self, and at any age to your younger self, what age would you go back to? And what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
I would go back to 15, age 15. This is summer 2003. I don't know if you remember, 20 years ago now.
20 years ago.
Had a lovely heat wave, August 2003.
Okay.
I was playing cricket with Joe Root, Sheffield lad, Joe Root.
Oh, yeah,
A
okay.
couple of years younger than me, played in the same teams. Just summer of no responsibilities. No GCSEs. I was 15. I was year 10, I think. No GCSEs, nothing, no job. Carefree, too young to work. I didn't have to get a part-time job in the corner shop. I was just free, literally free. Played cricket. So that was the best time of my life, And what advice I would give myself is it will work out in the end. It will work out in the end. Just don't stress. Everything will work out in the end. Because I wanted to be a speaker, a doctor, a coach. But so many hats. How do you do it? But it will work out in the end.
I love that. What a note to finish on. Dr. Asif, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dipesh. Pleasure.